McLaren's championship dream is unraveling in real time, and the cracks are showing in ways nobody expected. Oscar Piastri, who leads the Formula One standings with 346 points, found himself a staggering 0.588 seconds slower than his McLaren teammate Lando Norris during qualifying at the 2025 Mexican Grand Prix. This isn't just any performance gap between teammates, this is a chasm that has left the 24-year-old Australian searching for answers he simply cannot find. Piastri will start Sunday's race from 7th position on the grid, promoted from 8th after Williams' Carlos Sainz received a 5-place grid penalty from Austin. The championship leader's frustration was palpable when he told reporters, "I'm a bit frustrated with how the session's gone. There's a lot of things I could worry about. But ultimately, being that far off when you feel like you've done a reasonable job is a difficult place to be." What makes this situation particularly alarming for Piastri is not just the magnitude of the deficit, but the consistency of it. He has been approximately 4 to 5 tenths slower than Norris in every single session throughout the Mexico weekend. This is the nightmare scenario for any racing driver, losing 6 tenths of a second without knowing where or why. The technical mystery deepens when Piastri explains that everything feels mechanically normal. When asked directly if there might be something wrong with his McLaren following last weekend's collision with Norris in Austin, he responded, "Difficult to know. Everything feels normal, but the gap was big in that session. Has been big all weekend." He continued, "I think in qualifying, I felt like I did a reasonable job, and the car felt reasonable as well. So yeah, the lack of lap time is a bit of a mystery. The problems in Mexico are not isolated incidents, but rather an echo of troubles that emerged at the United States Grand Prix in Austin." Piastri had hoped those issues were circuit-specific, but reality has proven otherwise. In some ways, not too dissimilar, he admitted when comparing the two weekends. "I think what's been a bit surprising here has just been that the gap has been the same pretty much every session." He added, "Some of the things that were difficult in Austin are also proving difficult here. The pattern is undeniable and deeply concerning, with just 5 rounds and 2 sprint races remaining in the season." Perhaps most frustrating for Piastri is that he hasn't fundamentally changed his approach behind the wheel. "I've not changed really how I'm driving since the start of the season, and even a few races ago when things were going really well," he explained. "So it's difficult to pinpoint where the lap time has been lacking this weekend, but I'm sure we'll find it." The championship leader expects to be losing a little bit everywhere rather than in one specific corner or sector, which makes diagnosis and correction significantly more challenging. "There wasn't any big moments or corners where I felt I did something massively wrong. Just, yeah, that's been a bit of the story of the weekend," Piastri said. The championship mathematics make this weekend's performance gap particularly critical. Piastri leads Norris by just 14 points, while Red Bull's Max Verstappen lurks 40 points behind in 3rd place. The Dutch driver has been in devastating form, winning 3 races in the last 4 rounds, and closing a gap that stood at 104 points after the Dutch Grand Prix in August. Verstappen has scored 101 points since that race, while Piastri has managed just 37 points in the same period, including race-ending crashes in Azerbaijan and the Austin Sprint. The timing of Piastri's pace deficit couldn't be worse, coming immediately after McLaren announced a clean slate for both drivers heading into Mexico. The team had previously imposed internal consequences on Norris following their collision in Singapore, where Norris made contact with Piastri at turn 3. That penalty included giving Piastri priority in pit exit order during qualifying sessions, an attempt to enforce accountability within the garage. However, after both drivers crashed out of the Austin Sprint on the opening lap, with Piastri admitting a degree of responsibility from my side, McLaren decided to reset the dynamic between its title contenders. "We've gone through it again. We go through every weekend regardless of what's happened," Piastri told the press in Mexico City. "I think there is a degree of responsibility from my side in the sprint, and we're starting this weekend with a clean slate for both of us. We're just going out and racing to see who can come out on top. The consequences on Lando's side have been removed." The Australian explained that his attempted cutback line in Austin played a role in the contact, and that both drivers have accepted the situation and moved forward. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. McLaren's broader challenges extend far beyond the driver dynamics. According to Gazzetta dello Sport, tensions are beginning to rise at the Woking-based team, as they are no longer able to improve the pace of the MCL39 over race weekends sufficiently to beat Verstappen. The Red Bull RB21 has now caught up to McLaren's car in overall performance, thanks to floor upgrades introduced at Monza and front wing improvements at Singapore. While the McLaren MCL39 excels on medium speed, long-distance corners, the Red Bull RB21 now allows Verstappen to perform on a wider variety of circuits, making him competitive at tracks that previously didn't suit the car. The United States Grand Prix served as a harsh wake-up call for McLaren. Piastri and Norris crashing out of the sprint race denied the team crucial data collection, which then caused compromises with their Grand Prix setups. Verstappen's resurgence is reportedly undermining the confidence and serenity that McLaren built during the first 15 rounds of the season, when it appeared certain that either Piastri or Norris would claim their maiden title. McLaren have already secured the 2025 Constructors' Championship, winning it at Singapore to match the record that Red Bull set in 2023 by clinching the title with 6 rounds remaining. Piastri remains wary of Verstappen's growing threat heading into Mexico. Clearly, over the last few race weekends, Red Bull and Max have certainly found consistency. There were flashes of that kind of performance earlier in the season, but the last few weekends it's been very consistent, Piastri said. I'm sure they're going to be a threat again this weekend, and we'll try our best to get the most out of our car and see where we end up. Verstappen will start Sunday's race from 5th position, putting him right in the mix with both McLaren drivers as they navigate the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, a circuit where the Dutchman has won 5 Grand Prix races, a tally matched only by the Red Bull Ring. The championship leader compared the current title battle to previous fights earlier in his career, recalling the mental pressure he faced during his Formula 3 and Formula Renault title-winning seasons. There are some similarities, Piastri said. I feel stronger than I did back then, and I've got experience to draw on. It's nice to look back at how I handled those moments and apply that experience to this year. But just because I've done it before doesn't mean it's automatically going to happen again. With 5 rounds remaining, every point becomes crucial in determining whether McLaren can deliver their first drivers' champion since Lewis Hamilton in 2008. Despite the frustration and the unexplained performance deficit, Piastri hasn't lost his competitive spirit. Looking ahead to Sunday's race, he remains cautiously optimistic about finding solutions. I'll try my best. It's the longest run of the year, so I'll try and make up some spots there, he declared, referring to the famously long run down to Turn 1 at Mexico City. But I think if I can unlock the pace in the car, then we can have some fun. Just got to try and unlock it. The question now is whether Piastri and McLaren can solve this mystery before it costs them the championship they've worked so hard to achieve, especially when the team is no longer able to extract the performance advantages they once commanded over their rivals.